Welcome to Shop Talk Live, Fine Woodworking Magazine's bi-weekly podcast. I'm your host, Ben Strano, filling in for an ailing Tom McKenna. With me this episode is Mike Pekovich.
Hey, guys.
And Anissa Kapsales, associate editor.
Hi there.
Anissa's new to this, so we're going to be delicate. Today we have Carrie Delhanty behind the camera filling in for a slacking Jeff Rose. Jeff takes like 3 days off a year, and today's one of them, and I told him that we were going to do a podcast, and he actually was like, well, what time? Like scheming, like, oh, I got to be there. I was like, no, I'm going to tell your wife. Don't. So, I want to mention that we are not doing the survey anymore.
For the podcast.
Yeah. Or you can go and fill out the survey if you still have the link, but we're not going to give away stickers anymore because it turns out stickers are pretty expensive when giving away that many.
Like a dime.
No. They're not the ones we bought.
Okay.
So, yeah. I spent a lot of money on that, apparently. But if you did fill out the survey and you gave us your address for stickers, we'll hopefully be getting those out in a couple of weeks or so. I've been getting some emails, people wondering where they are, but I'm not that organized, so it's going to be a little while.
I just saw Philip Morley's bandsaw on Instagram. It was all stickered up.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Did it have ours?
Yeah, it had Fine Woodworking and the podcast, and then his sticker too, which is fine because it's a really cool sticker too.
But is that like wearing your own T-shirt?
I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna.
Well, but he always wears the hat.
Yes.
So, but that's kind of part of his look.
He's a pro. That's branding.
Yeah.
That's good. You need
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
Good call.
How much do the stickers increase the value of the bandsaw?
Depends who's buying the bandsaw, I think.
I mean, if it was Philip Morley's bandsaw, I think it would get a little bit more of a price hike because Philip Morley put the stickers on there.
Fine woodworking stickers.
Oh, well, no. That doesn't do anything for you.
I don't think so.
No.
The podcast sticker, you're losing money there.
Yeah. All right. So, should we jump into some questions?
Sure.
Sounds
All
good.
right, cool. So question number 1 is from Leonard. I have built several pieces of furniture using multiple methods to cut mortise and tenon joints. Every method has worked to some degree, but I am wondering if I just need to break down and spend the money to purchase a hollow chisel mortiser or a Domino in order to be more efficient and consistent. What are your thoughts on these two tools, and do you see an overall best choice? We've got some Domino fans here.
What do you use, Anissa?
I can make a case for anything.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how many you're doing, the situation. Obviously, you're not going to use a Domino if you're exposing your joinery.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I really love the Domino. And having said that, I just spent last week with Chris Bexford, and I watched him cut a lot of through mortises by hand. And there's something about that. I mean, the reason I like to go running is I could put my shoes on and I go. I don't have to set anything up. I don't have to bring any equipment. Doing it handwork like that, he just got his chisel out, got the mallet out, and it was done.
Oh, so no drill press, no.
No, nothing. Just went through both sides, knocked it out. That's pretty non-committal, right?
No.
Yeah, that's
I'd break down and go for the Domino.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think, those are two pretty hefty extremes just to get a little bit better with your mortise and tenon joints. The question is, should he get a mortise or a Domino in order to be more efficient and consistent? I'd say you should be able to get consistent either by hand or like drilling and chopping. I would say that's probably a pretty important thing to be able to do is to be consistent without getting a big expensive machine. And I think where the Domino and the mortiser, for me, I have the hollow chisel mortiser, where that comes into play is efficiency, just speed. A lot of woodworking is just about, well, how long do you want to take to do something versus how much money do you want to spend to do it faster?
yeah.
So I would maybe check out some articles on doing it by hand. We've done articles in the past where you drill out most of the waste and then chop everything square. I did that for like years and years and years, and it was fine. It was just slow. My tenons, I pretty much have always done my tenons on the table saw, usually with the dado blade.
Yeah.
I'd say if you don't have a way to do tenons, then a domino might be pretty smart.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
For me, I wonder, because he had listed all of the different ways that he had done it, and I wonder if his inability to commit to one way meant he wasn't doing it efficiently and consistently.
Yeah, there's that notion of, I hear this somewhat frequently, I tried that, it didn't work. It's like, no, try it until it works for you. And then you know what that's about. And then go try something else until that works for you. And now you sort of have some context for things. But, if you read an article by Chris Bexford and he tells you how to cut a dovetail, and you say, I tried it, it didn't work, I'm not going to fault the article.
Yeah,
there.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
if you are doing a 3 mortise,
yeah.
you drill it out with a chisel. You don't drill it out with a chisel. That'd be weird. You drill it out and chisel.
Drill and chisel. Yeah.
Impressive, but weird.
That would be.
Actually, like if you are doing it by hand, it seems like more work to do through mortises, but you actually end up with better chances to get really straight and square glue ups through, because you can lay out the mortise on each face and work in from each face toward the middle. Whereas if it's just a stopped mortise and you're coming down from one face and your chisel is a little bit out of square and you end up with a tenon, which is, a tenon piece, which is coming off at an angle. Mm-hmm. But if you come in from each face, you basically, as long as those openings on each face are aligned with each other, things can kind of happen in the middle, but everything will tend to square up a little bit that way.
Okay.
And then you can always wedge the joint if it's not tight enough after the fact too.
Yeah. And probably to some extent the style of furniture you're building dictates the choice between a hollow chisel mortise and a domino,
yeah.
right?
I would think so.
If you're doing arts and crafts furniture.
Hollow chisel mortise or
If you're doing mid-century modern.
domino.
If you're doing shaker.
Gotta
like
say
this
domino.
Yeah, me too.
Well, for me, it's like if I'm doing a door frame with a groove for a panel, it's hollow chisel mortiser. If I'm doing a door frame with no groove, like when I insert like a Kumiko panel after the fact, domino, because bam, you're done.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, Leonard, buy both.
yes.
And practice your handwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second question, which is from Will. I have 2 9-foot hoop pine slabs from an old table I deconstructed. Each slab is 18 inches wide, but only 3/4 of an inch thick. I plan to reuse these slabs on a shorter tabletop. The problem is these slabs have cupped. Being so thin already, I cannot just plane the boards flat. There is some flex in the boards that I can use to pull them flat during construction, but I'm not sure how reliable this is as a long-term solution. I intend to form somewhat of a torsion box underneath the top with aprons and rails on a trestle design. If they're reclaimed, I don't think they're going to move anymore, right? And they were probably cupped when they got cranked down to whatever base.
Yeah. Pine, 3/4 inch pine, 18 inches wide.
That's big pine.
There's a lot of flex there. Would you just sock them down to the apron?
That's a good question. Maybe spritz them. Spritz the side that's
concave.
Yeah. Spritz that side.
Does anybody say concave or convex with real authority?
No, I have to figure it out every single time. Yeah.
You're going into a cave. That's the way I do it.
So maybe do that a little bit on the other side and see if anything happens, or just crank it down.
I think if there's like a nice patina to the pine and you don't want to surface it, then you just crank it down. Like I said, if you can push it down flat and the buttons are going to hold it down, just go for it. If there is no patina and you don't mind surfacing, and the only problem is they're already skinny, you can always rip these things narrower. Mm-hmm. So you're not removing any material, and just glue them back up flatter. That's okay.
I mean, it sounds like he has more than enough. 2 9-foot long, 18 inches wide. He's making a short tabletop. Could he joint and plane them and double them up, glue them up together, and then you've got by the time you're done, probably 1.25 inches to do whatever you want with.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's always, I mean, conceptually, it's like, yeah, just glue them together into a thicker board. Is that what you mean? That just doesn't work well. It's such a hard glue up unless you have a
Yeah,
vacuum
that
bag
is,
or
yep.
something. And
Okay.
then you have a glue joint along the edges. And that starts to run into the category of these are the wrong boards for what you're doing. Go buy some
Okay.
other boards
Yeah.
and save this. But yeah, I don't know. I like Anissa's thought. Just go ahead and spritz it, see if it flattens up. And then also, if you can push it down and you have a pretty sturdy undercarriage, yeah, just suck it down.
Yeah, I recently did not the spritzing to get it flattened. I just threw it on the grass in the morning.
Yeah.
The dew covered grass, and it actually did do a lot of good. And thankfully, I had thought, I did it in the morning, and I came down here to work. And about an hour later, I had a meeting with Tom. But it just popped in my head. I was like, you know what? I really think I need to go check on those boards because it happens way faster than you think it will. The uncupping, and I just caught it in time. If I had waited until after the meeting, and I had a real job with like a boss who was like, no, be here, but he was like, no, go check on your lumber. So, job perk.
Cool. I'm probably shortly after moving to Connecticut, I was working in the garage, had some boards, had some cup to it. So I spritzed one side, brought them in the house, and just leaned the opposite side up against the radiators overnight just to sort of heat that. That was kind of overkill because when I came downstairs the next morning, they were potato chips. Like there was the opposite direction, but with so much bow, I'm pretty sure I did not salvage those things.
If you do the spritz technique or whatever, I would also be very, very careful with how you store them while you're working. I've been clamping the whole assembly up every time I leave the shop just to make sure that there's something holding those from bowing again. But
What are you using them for?
it's a little desk, but they're 24 inches wide. It's a glue up that's been cupping, and it probably cupped, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch to begin with. But I've been putting the sides in and the center sections and just clamping it down before I leave every time, just because I'm paranoid now. I don't want to have to buy more lumber because I'm cheap. So, all right, I think we've gotten all we can out of that.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so let's move on to our first segment, all-time favorite technique of all time for this week. Who wants to go?
Go ahead, Anissa.
Not
What
it.
you got? What?
Not it.
This is her first time, so
Yeah.
she shouldn't have to read it.
Okay. All right. Well, this is what happens when Matt isn't here to take us way off topic. We're just on time, and we stop talking. Oh, okay. Let's talk about something else.
No one to interrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll keep
Yeah.
it in mind.
You know Matt, right? Be that.
Yes, I do. You know me though, right?
Yeah.
In the chatty on the chatty scale, one of us is a lot chattier than the other.
Yeah.
All-time favorite tool technique of all time.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to teach next week my first week-long summer class at Connecticut Valley. And one thing that always comes to mind is one of the most important things in starting out a class with a lot of students, a lot of work pieces. The very first thing we do before we even turn on a machine is to get all the parts marked with Cabinetmakers triangle, to get all the parts and pieces locked into where they're supposed to go in the case, because there's nothing worse than getting to a table saw with a dado blade spinning and the dust collector on and 5 people in line behind you, and you're looking at your board wondering which edge I need to wrap it. So those marks need to be there, or if you're cutting dovetails, it's very disheartening to cut some nice dovetails and then put your drawer box together and it looks more like a zigzag instead of a square. So with that in mind, the Cabinetmakers triangle is what I use. It's what I have all my students use. I used to say, don't put the numbers or the dots or the dashes or the hieroglyphics, just a triangle. And it kind of got to the point where a lot of times it's not necessarily intuitive to people. So I say, fine, get the triangles on there and then put whatever else you want on there. Mm-hmm. So when I come over to your workbench, I can at least look at the triangles and see. And then invariably, if we start on a Monday by Wednesday afternoon, I'll come around and I'll say, your triangle's in the wrong place. And they're like, oh, yeah, I decided to like change that piece. That's okay. So it's like, oh, okay.
If you change it, erase it.
So, it's not that I'm not stressed out looking forward to this or anything, but I am relying on the triangles to get us off to a good start and hopefully keep us out of trouble. So that is my favorite technique.
You are big on the triangles too, Anissa.
I am big on the triangles.
Is that a College of the Redwoods thing, or do we know where that?
I don't think so.
It's a European thing.
Oh,
It's a universal.
Yeah.
it's a smart people
it's like a
thing.
guild thing. It's a
I didn't say
traditional
that.
thing. Actually, and I did a short article in the magazine on it, and one of my favorite and most influential articles it's like old fine woodworking. It's one of the things that I rediscovered. It was from like one of the first 5 issues or so when someone did this nice little line drawing article on using the Cabinetmakers triangle. And so I wanted to kind of redux that with my own methods and what I've learned from other woodworkers and everything. And that article was sort of in the back of my mind because it was like, I got to sort of, bring that knowledge forward to a new generation of woodworkers. So then I got an email from the gentleman who wrote the original article.
Okay.
And he was livid. I'd gotten it all wrong. It's like, you can't do that. That is incorrect.
But your method works.
Yes, it does. It works for me.
Yeah.
And it works for my students, but it's not 100% right.
So it's not historically accurate.
It's not historically.
Okay.
I have somewhere along the lines have taken liberties with it. So anyway, that was they kind of let the air out of my balloon just a little bit. So anyway,
I've found that the triangle works incredibly well. The one place I always use it is if I've got 4 square legs.
oh yeah,
And to put the triangle on the end grain. Because if you have 4, they're actual square legs, there are so many ways to get that one wrong.
yes,
And, you've picked, all right, I want this one on the front right, I want this one on the front left. And then when they're just sitting there, God only knows which way they're going to go. So that end grain triangle, that always happens for me.
that's where I broke the rule. Because on the top of the 4 legs together, if you put a single triangle, the back legs have sort of 2 portions of the triangle, so you know where those are. The front legs just have a little slash in a corner that can actually get rotated around and mixed up.
Oh.
So I use a pair of right triangles with the straight sides facing in toward the center. That's
Oh, you use
what
2.
I got called out on.
That's a little cheeky.
So yeah, so on top of the legs, I have 2 right triangles with the right angles toward the center, so
Saucy.
that each of the 4 parts. The idea is each of the 4 parts has
Sassy. Sorry.
Anissa's waking up.
to.
Thanks for the cake up.
So each part has to have 2 legs to the triangle.
Okay.
So there you go.
No, I think that's a great idea, actually. I was visualizing it as you were saying it. But I'm disappointed in what you were saying about the students. I thought you were going to say halfway through the other things that they were doing were disappearing and they were only with the triangle.
No, that has never happened.
It will someday.
Yeah. The other thing is to get some people.
We'll see. Barry's taking a class with you next week. Right?
Yes,
So, all
yeah.
right. This is a test.
Yeah, and yes. So, and he won't be able to hear this before.
No.
So we'll see how we
You'll
did.
be finishing up.
Yeah. The other thing
when
is
this comes out.
people take like a number 4 pencil and put the lightest, tiniest triangles on the parts. It's like, nope, can't see that one. Big old triangles. You're like, So, yeah.
That's an experience thing too. In the beginning, when you first start, you think, I can't write on this.
Yes.
I can't write on this. But as time goes by, you're writing phone messages on there, and you know how easy it is to get off, and how not a big deal it is.
No, but once you surface prep a board, you don't mark it at all.
No.
Right? Okay.
Nope. Then I usually remark everything, usually on the joints themselves that you don't see, on the faces of dovetails or on the tenons, or sometimes you got to get inside of a mortise to get your little triangle in there.
Yeah.
But then one student, and then it's like, but then once you get the parts together, those disappear. So if you're doing, 2 halves of a table glue up, all of a sudden, oh shoot, what was the front? And one of my students, I looked over and he just had little pieces of blue tape and remarked the triangles on the tape on the surface things. It's like, oh, that's really smart. So I do that now.
Yeah,
when I have to.
Nice. You know, you have another article to write with blue tape.
Blue tape. I have a blue tape story.
Okay.
I got an email from Bob Van Dyke at Connecticut Valley because Steve Latta, who's like one of the woodworking gods and one of my true heroes in the craft, was there teaching a Spicebox class, and Bob sent me a picture of Steve Latta using the blue tape trick for his dovetails. Bam.
That's it. It's not going to get any better, man.
That's it. I'm putting my hand plane down right now and walking away. That was it. So, all right. What you got, Anissa?
It's not as glamorous.
As a triangle.
The credit card, or not the credit card, the business card.
Just buying stuff with Taunton's business card?
No.
Okay.
The business card next to on the table saw. The bridle joint is my favorite joint. And I learned somewhere along the way, when you're just trying to get that little extra bit off instead of tapping the fence, put the business card while you're putting it through. And 6 out of 10 shops I go in, there's a business card sitting on somebody's table saw. Yeah. Just to shave off that little extra that you need.
Okay, so instead of tapping the fence, just stick a business card in there, and that gives you the little,
Yeah. See, not as glamorous.
No,
but
that's good.
useful.
It is useful and somewhat universal because I see a lot of them sitting on
Yes.
table saws.
Yeah. Huh.
I use those like if I'm fitting a door to an opening and I have to do sort of a slightly angled cut on the end grain, little business card on either end.
I used to keep a deck of cards in the shop for setting reveals.
Oh, yeah. And the business cards for reveals, too.
So that, I mean, yeah, universal. There you go.
Dollar bill. I've seen people using a dollar bill or folding it up when they need more.
Yeah. So, like, references that you have all around.
But then you'd need to have a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
I never have a quarter. And I can tell you why I never have a quarter. Because we always use quarters for the camera mounts, for the tripod mounts. And at this point now, Jeff just hands me a quarter when we're setting up a shoot. And so he's like, God, one of these days. But, all right. So mine is, I'm modifying my wife's weaving loom. And I've got these boards of maple, and I, milled them and hand planed them. They're perfect. I was like, I should really put a chamfer on here because there's a spot where yarn is going to be going over and breaking over the edge, and hopefully not breaking, but the breaking the plane. And so I wanted to add a chamfer. So I took it to the table saw, put the blade at 45 degrees, did a bevel cut. I was like, all right, this would normally be fine, but all of my surfaces are hand planed perfect right now. So I wanted to hand plane that chamfer.
Okay.
And I thought about, I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I'm not good enough with a hand plane to keep it consistently at 45 degrees. There's not much of a reference face. So I went in the scrap bin, pulled out a piece of plywood with a 45 degree cut on it. And I just used that to reference the hand plane off of, tipping the hand plane.
Okay.
And then sliding it along the bench. And because I'm lame, I did a little video, of course. And at first I double stick taped this piece of plywood to the hand plane. Huh. And I thought, that's brilliant. And then I realized that especially when you're chamfering with a hand plane, the grain is never running in your favor. So I just lean it up against, and in this video you'll see I started and I immediately felt tear out. So I just flipped the plane over and went from the left-hand side.
So it's a short little block, and you're actually moving it along with the hand plane.
Yeah.
And you're basically creating an angled bed for the hand plane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's slick.
Thanks.
Because I have a shooting board with the same angled fence, but nothing moves because it's made for shorter pieces.
Yeah, so this is a long, 4 foot long piece.
No, that's cool.
And, I could have made a fixture for this.
Yeah.
But I really just wanted to...
And then never used it again.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this done, so I jump in the scrap bin, and there it is, know? And then, I flip it over, and now I can go the other way with it. So that is my all-time favorite technique of all time for this week.
What I really like about this technique is that you did everything you could to put a precisely 45-degree chamfer on this. And you're like, really? Does it need to be exactly 45?
No. And the worst part is I am going to sand a little bit of radius going into this chamfer just because it's yarn going over it.
Yeah.
And I want it to be as smooth as humanly possible, but I wanted this face to be perfectly 45
Okay, that's cool. I respect that.
I have issues.
Yes,
What
we all do.
are you going to do? But yeah.
Cool.
All right, so next question. My laptop fan is raging right now. All right, let's see. Next question. From Dean, I have been building some small boxes and some small case pieces for practice, as well as the odd bit of plywood workshop furniture. I tend toward more traditional joinery, but not exclusively. How would you recommend selecting potential projects in order to give a good grounding in the fundamentals and to allow me to avoid biting off more than I can currently chew? This is a really cool question.
That's a great question.
So he's selecting his projects based on not need, but
It sounds like moving forward, he wants to increase his skills without jumping right into the deep end. I think that's pretty smart.
yeah.
I mean, if you say, I'm going to tackle a Queen Anne highboy, and you can get through it, but if you're struggling like at every step of the game,
Having no fun,
and you end up with something, and you can be really proud of that. But then again, it's like, what have you mastered here?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not a lot. Whereas if you sort of stay within your game, use some joinery you already know, and maybe if you've never made and hung a door, make a little cabinet with a door.
I knew you were going to say cabinet with a door.
If you made a little table, make a little table with a drawer. Just sort of, the idea of sort of like try one new technique and buy one new tool for every project that you make. Means you're always learning and you're always getting more tools.
How can you go wrong with that?
I see. I lean towards like a little side table with a drawer.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, and for me, that was a huge learning experience.
Yeah.
A lot of different joinery in there. Twin tenons, case dovetail, drawers, which I had done before. But,
Yeah, kickers, runners, guides, all that stuff. A traditional half-line dovetail drawer.
And that was a new one for me. Yep.
Yeah. I think at North Bennett, there are two beginning projects. One is a small little shaker-style table with tapered legs and a drawer. Mm-hmm. The second project is a tool chest with dovetailed case construction and drawers. And sort of like between those two things, that's like 95% of furniture construction. The rest is just how are you going to dress it up with carving or inlay or veneer or curves. But sort of those are the basics.
Well, and they really, I mean, that's what they do. They set curriculums and things like that. That tool chest and the requirements for that tool chest are very, very specifically set up to teach you a lot in a short period of time. And so there's all sorts of different joinery in there, and bridle joints and mortises and raised panel door. You're not hanging it on hinges,
Right.
but you're still fitting it and everything like that. Through dovetails, half-blind dovetails, all sorts of stuff. So that would, I mean, it's a pretty epic project, though. That could be a long project.
Yeah. So, Anissa, what like one project that you've made would you say is like your biggest learning experience? What did you learn the most on?
I'm going to have to say it was a little cabinet that I made at the College of the Redwoods. Mm-hmm. There they start you out. Your first week is all about sharpening.
Wow.
But that was a hard week. Then you make a hand plane, and then your first project, you have a couple little fundamental exercises where you're flattening a board and cutting it, ripping it down and gluing it back together. And then they set you loose on a little cabinet. Mm-hmm. And dowel joinery, mm-hmm. and you have a solid panel back, and the door is bridle joints, and you're hinging that, and that's a really good starter project, I think. and you could add a little drawer to it, and you could go a little bit out of the realm, but it is pretty specific and not as daunting as that tool chest.
Yeah,
that tool chest is daunting.
It is daunting.
So
I mean, the
breaks
video
it
we
down
made
a little
was
bit.
7 hours long.
But that didn't answer your question, did it, Mike? So a spin-off of that was...
But after you were done with that, you pretty much knew case construction, at least in the College of the Redwood style.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then I went to a dovetailed case with funkier doors, and
Right.
and I still have that piece, actually.
Probably the fun thing about a little cabinet is that you can do different design things with it too. It's a good format for trying new designs, or new to you at least.
Yeah.
Designs.
Yeah, I do one of my favorite classes to teach. It's a little wall cabinet, dovetail case construction through mortise and tenons for the shelf, a half-line dovetail drawer, and a frame and panel door. It's a really small piece, not a lot of lumber, but in a week, again, that is basically the fundamentals of case construction, doors and drawers. And you walk away from that, and you can do a lot of things, and then you can... Next project, I want to do some carving, I want to do some inlay, I want to do something else to it. Mm-hmm. Now you're adding on to a skill set. You're not chewing up too many new skills all at one time.
Yeah. Cool. So I don't know. Wall cabinet. Consensus? Fairly. All right, next question is from Jake. I recently upgraded my table saw, and I've been looking at putting one of my routers in one of the wings of the saw. Do you prefer your router to be in a wing of a table saw or on a standalone router table? That's the first part. Second part is, if you were putting your router in a table saw wing, would you prefer it to be on the left or right side of the saw? Typically, the fence rails are longer on the right side, allowing for a larger router table. But the left side would allow me to feed long pieces in the same direction and use the same outfeed table as the saw. So first part, standalone or...
What do you have?
Separate. I don't really have space for separate.
Yeah.
Without space issues being a concern, I would definitely go separate.
To me, there's no reason other than space.
And then second part, right-hand side. I don't know if that's because I've never seen anybody do it on the left-hand side, I don't think, but just pull that fence over.
My fear... And it keeps me up at night. No, but I always think if
snakes,
if spiders,
being interrupted on podcasts,
porcupines.
Well played, Kapsales. If I put the router in the wing of the table saw, and especially if I use the fence as the fence for the router. I'm immediately after I get it set up, I'm going to need to do something on the table saw. I need the fence for that. So I think if you put it in the fence, don't count on using the table saw fence. Or if you put it in the table, don't count on using the table saw fence.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I agree with Anissa. I would throw it way on the right-hand side, as you're looking at the saw. And I wouldn't put it into a wing. I would put it into my side support table. Because over there right now, I've got, obviously the scraps that come off of the saw. I got all my billion push sticks, which are half chewed up, and I need to make some more. Anyway, a lot of stuff always sort of lives over there, which means unless I'm doing a really long cross cut, I never really use that space anyway. So I could see having a router over there and not getting in my way for the most part. And for a fence, I would have the fence where you have one pivot point and it just swings, because it's actually a much more accurate little micro adjust. Yeah. And, obviously a rip fence has to always stay parallel to the table saw blade, but there's no such thing as parallel to a router bit. You're just, it's the distance from the center of the bit. So I like the little swinging guy, and you're right, you don't tie up your rip fence by using it for that.
And how often do you really need an outfeed table on a router table?
Yeah. I don't know. For me, the answer is very rarely.
Yeah. I mean, I made some door casing one time for our house.
Yeah.
And that was about the only time I can think of. But generally, you're doing small contained things on a router table.
And even then, like if I had to do like long mill work for the odd time I have to do it, if you have feather boards that's holding the stock down through the bit, that means you kind of shove it all the way through. You can have 6 feet of stock hanging off the other side. It isn't going to go anywhere. You just go around and just pull it all the way through. So I don't think the outfeed support is a critical enough issue to throw the router in a location where it's going to be in your way a lot of the time.
You have like a little router table that
Yeah.
you just set up on your workbench, right?
Yeah.
Is that by choice or?
It was just one of those things. It's sort of like a little stow and go mini router table, and I had a little, 1 horse DeWalt or 1 3/4 horse fixed base DeWalt in it, and then I switched to a bench dog cast iron router lift in it with a 3-horse Porter cable motor, and now this little tiny router table weighs like 85 pounds. So it used to live underneath the counter, and I had to pull it up and get it on my bench, and now it just lives on this weird little rolling cart I have. So it's always up, and it's really, really high because it's sitting way up higher than it should be. So I need to do something about it. I haven't done it yet. Probably putting it in the side view table because space in my shop is a big, big issue. I think I'd like to do that.
The router table we have in the shop here,
I love it.
it's amazing. John White, right? Mm-hmm. He did an article on that.
Yes. The very first Tools and Shops, issue 153.
Oh, you're the encyclopedia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I know Bruce Morser did the illustrations, and they were very expensive. So please look at that issue and appreciate those.
But that and Peter Schleybecker's router table.
Yes.
Do you have that issue rattling around in there? I
No,
don't.
sorry.
I'm sorry. But those two, I would go John White and Peter Schlebecker. And I think they're not small, so neither one of them is space efficient, but they're both really nice router tables.
I always wonder if I'm so in love with the router table in the shop because it's the first time I've used like a nice lift.
Yeah, that's the thing with that one.
Oh God,
A
they're
nice
so
lift.
expensive, but
Yes, and a big motor so it doesn't bog down. There's no vibration. It's just really smooth.
there's only one upgrade that I would perform to that router table. Separate switch for the vacuum, or like a switch that you could, because the switch operates the motor.
Oh, and then you have to
And-
turn the shop back on.
And
Or the-
it should be on all the time. So you,
Right.
Oh, it's on the dust collector. That's right. No. Yes.
no,
No.
it's got a shop vac in the base.
Okay.
So you hit the switch, the shop vac turns on with the router.
Yeah.
Right. But if you've got dust left on the router table, you have to unplug the router to run the shop vac because it's fully enclosed.
We have another shop vac in the shop.
But it's
so-
all the way over there.
Oh.
I don't know. I got one right there. I should just be able to brush it into. All right, maybe I'm whiny.
No, we're in that little.
That's like a diva complaint.
Yes, it is. You get the air
Do you
compressor
know
right
who I
there.
think I am? All right, let's move on to what seems to be, based on the surveys, everybody's favorite.
You're not going to invite me back yet again, are you?
Of course we are, Anissa.
You can fill in for me anytime.
We'll get complaints. We'll get a lot of emails. Where's Mike?
That does happen.
That has never happened.
Smooth moves. Who's got them?
Oh,
Okay, Nisa, you're going first this time around.
which one to choose? Once, when I was in a school environment, I'm not going to mention where, I'm not going to mention any names here, but the thing with schools is there are certain times you're allowed in the shop. Sometimes you could do handwork, but you can't use any of the machines after hours. And at this particular school with a group of people, we were banned from using the machines at night after a certain time, and they would lock up the circuit breaker. So I had a good idea. It was a good idea. Somebody needed the bandsaw, and I said, I have you covered. And I opened up the wheel, and I started turning it by hand really fast, and they were bandsawing. And then my hand got stuck in there.
Anissa!
He cut that piece.
What a good friend you are.
I am. It was after we got caught breaking into the circuit breaker, but he got that piece cut.
You're a bad influence on people,
Wow.
aren't you?
Did you hurt your hand enough where people knew about it, or you could kind of hide it?
I was able to hide it.
That's good.
Everybody who was there,
Yes.
but nobody was going to say anything. But it hurt.
So it went in too far, and
Yeah.
it just sort of,
Yeah.
ouch.
Wow.
That's awesome. I never would have thought of that.
This
And
is
that's brilliant.
official. You are invited back.
I should have gotten some kind of handle. I should have made a handle so
Oh,
that,
yes.
Yeah.
just like a...
We don't condone this act, by the way, right? Fine Woodworking's official.
I think we need a new category of hand-powered power tools, stationary machines, right? You know, like it's like the pole lathe, but on steroids. That's awesome. That's very cool.
I love this.
That's not even a smooth move.
That's just awesome.
Yeah.
We can't possibly come up with anything
No.
that's going to be better than that. Although yours is pretty good.
Well, mine is sort of a...
Mine's pretty good too, though. So
I have kind of a double heaping helping of smooth move. This is very recent, painfully recent. I was like, okay, so I'm prepping for a class, and I was all prepped, and that was all good to go. And I finished out some other stuff, and I had like some, just like a clear window in my shop to get something done. And I had to take advantage of it. So I started this little small little tea chest, which started out with just a little dovetailed case. And so, of course, my triangles are on all the parts, and I'm keeping track of the triangles and the orientation of the parts as I'm dovetailing this chest. And as I put it together, one set of tails on one of my boards was upside down. And there you go. So that was pause, stew, be depressed for a little while. Okay.
5 stages of grief.
Yes. It's like, okay, Mike, snap out of it. You got that extra board over there. Just cross cut it, try it again. No problem. I get through it. That's okay. And I get it all fit together. And I'm looking at it once it's all dry fit. And it's like, wow, that looks a little bit skinny. That's really strange. And I had like a full-size drawing on my bench, and I put it up to that. And sure enough, the case was like a half an inch shorter than it should have been. And okay, sigh number 2. It's like, oh man, now I have to live with this. And so that's like pain on top of pain. And
it's reoccurring.
And then sort of the third pain, and I will...
Chronic.
I will like sort of admit to this vanity, because in the first dovetailing thing, I said, I'm going to time myself to see how quickly I can dovetail a case. Because like, that's pretty cool. You know, I bet I can do this pretty fast. So, you know, that may or may not have something to do with all the mistakes that happen beyond that. So anyway.
I just love the idea of you in your shop by yourself, timing yourself.
And I did stop my iPhone timer when I had to recut the dovetails. I subtracted that from my time. And it came out to I could dovetail a small THS case in 1 hour and 38 minutes. And I was like kind of impressed by that. Wow, that's pretty fast. Dang, that's good. And so here I am stewing about this case, which was a half an inch like too short. And it's like, I have to live with this, because how could I ever remake this? And I said, Mike, you just timed yourself. You went through the trouble of timing yourself, and you were gloating that it only took you 1 hour and 38 minutes to cut dovetails on a case. So what are you waiting for? Just stop being a baby, cut up some more wood, and just dovetail another case. So I did. So now I have 2 cases, one slightly skinnier than the other.
Did you time that one?
I did not.
Okay.
I don't think I will ever time myself again. So
okay.
Yeah. There you go. And in my defense, it was because I'm teaching this as a class, and I sort of want to get a gauge how long it's going to take people to go through different processes. Not really. I just want to time myself. So, yeah, a whole lot of smooth moves going on there.
All right. My turn, huh? Mm-hmm. All right. So I've been saving this one because every time we do smooth moves, I'm not on. But so I built this little candle stand. And when I was digging around for lumber for it, there had just been a big cleanup in the shop, and there wound up being some extra lumber in my little lumber pile. And I look, and there was this beautiful piece of riff sawn 8/4 stock that I was like, oh, that's perfect. So I go, I turn it, I make the whole table. I'm getting ready to finish it. And I put oil on the top, and that cherry just turns that beautiful, deep cherry color. I put it on the little legs, same thing. I put that oil on the post, and immediately I realize it's maple.
And you had assumed it was cherry.
I had assumed it was cherry. I was looking for cherry. I grabbed a piece of wood and I even took a picture because I wanted to have something to defend myself with, but I couldn't find the picture for this podcast, but I even took a picture of the rough cut off and it was reddish.
Okay.
But I don't know how I thought. It's just that immediate realization. I mean, and I wasn't going to make the piece again, so I just wound up painting the base. But because it was, I had done, sliding dovetails for the legs. I turned it, and it was just, I was making it for my mom. And honestly, my mom's not going to listen to this. I was like, Mom ain't going to know, so I'm going to paint it. But I mean, I can't tell you how stupid I felt.
Well, in your defense, cherry looks exactly like maple. No, it doesn't.
No. Especially because the quarter sawn section of maple has the... And I even remember while I was working on it being like, wow, this almost looks like maple right here. This is some weird cherry.
And you just ignored that intuition.
Yeah, and in my defense, all of you guys saw it and didn't notice it either.
Or we were polite enough not to call you out on it.
Matt claims that he was being polite, but I don't believe him.
I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
My attention was drawn to the base.
Because the base was odd.
No, because it looks like a rocket ship.
It does look like a rocket ship.
And I mean that in the best sense, because rocket ships are awesome.
Yeah. I never was fully settled with this design.
Yeah. But your mom loves it, right?
My mom went out and bought new furniture for her living room. Because everything was so sad looking compared to the table.
Right on.
I was like, whatever, Mom. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. I love you too.
The black looks great with the cherry.
And I did, Peter Galbert had shared a little finishing recipe, a milk paint technique. And it's like a layered, almost distressed, but not distressed thing.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and it's okay. And it's a fine looking table.
Yeah.
It is a fine looking table.
Yeah. It's fine. But okay.
And you're a much evolved woodworker from having made this piece.
I think so. I don't think I'll make another candle stand. Yeah. And if I do, I'm just going to follow Christian Becksford's plans to the T. Because I wanted to make Chris's candle stand. Yeah. And I wanted to put my own little stamp on it.
Yeah.
And the parts I don't like are my stamp.
It's a big old stamp.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do?
It's awesome.
You learn by doing.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to our last question, which is from Connor. I recently got a high angle iron for my low angle smoother, and now I feel silly for having waited so long. It made me wonder if you had experienced any similar revelations, be it for initial cost or convenience. What simple items or techniques that you have avoided have made your craft more enjoyable and productive?
That's a good question.
Yeah. For me, it's sharpening. And I still don't personally own one, but having a grinder and the ability to just get back to the beginning, of get to a primary bevel quickly. Grinders aren't expensive.
Yeah.
And there's so many times now that I have access to one in the fine woodworking shop that I'm very, very glad I have it. So.
Very elementary, but clamps. I resisted getting a whole fleet of clamps for a long time.
Yeah.
And I would just try and make do with what I had, and I finally ended up getting a bunch of used ones from somebody who was moving their shop and unloading some. But it feels really nice to have enough clamps to do whatever I want now.
Yeah.
Clamps.
Because clamps are like the least sexy woodworking purchase.
Yes.
It's like, wow, I'm going to drop $500 on clamps, or I could buy a bandsaw.
Yes.
Or like a bunch of great hand planes. No, I'm going to buy clamps.
I started doing something with clamps, and this sounds really decadent, but it's like I have like this.
Doesn't go together.
No, but I have like the small little orange Jorgensen F-style clamps, you know, and I've got like two little short ones, and I love those little short ones. But when I go to grab them, they're not in the rack; they're over by the drill press because I'm always using them to clamp the fence onto the drill press. So you got to go over there and take it off. And I mean, this is like years and years and years and years that I've been having to go chase down those clamps. Yeah. Guess what?
You bought more clamps?
I bought 2 more clamps.
Dedicated them right there.
Yes.
That is decadent.
Yes. And now I got in a little L shelf that I just screwed to the wall by the drill press. My clamps are right there. And guess what? By my bandsaw, boom, little shelf. I got some little squishy clamps over there because I'm always clamping something down there. So I'm going to have to go with Anissa. Yeah, clamps. And it's like you just suffer so long. And because it's part of your routine, you get by. Okay, I have the one clamp. I have the other clamp that's good, but it's bent. Then I have the really cheapo clamp, but I can, It's like you get to know all of your clamps very personally. And then you bite the bullet and get some good ones. And it's like, and you just want to just like kick all of those old stupid clamps you've been suffering with.
Technique-wise, it would be continuing with the theme, learning to actually operate wooden hand screws.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I remember when we were at Kevin Rodell's, he's got probably, give or take, 25.
A lot. Expert too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, like, next time I come back, I'm going to know how to operate these. I'm not going to act like an idiot.
And they're both like ninjas with the...
Yeah. But Bob and I did a video, Bob Van Dyke, and I did a video, and like, I'm not a very good actor, and when we're on the video, it's like he explains how he thinks about it, and I was like, oh my God, that's how you do it. And now I find myself grabbing for them all of the time, and the best thing is I pick them up at the flea market. I can only really find one for $5 at a time, but like I am assembling a little army of wooden hand screws, $5 at a time, and they're the most useful clamps ever.
Cool.
Anissa's phone is
buzzing. I'm so sorry.
Do you need to get that? We'll wait. Go ahead. That's fine.
We're throwing like all these weird noises at Carrie right now. She just keeps looking up at me. Like the fan on my laptop is raging. She looks at me like, what is that? Oh my God. Poor Carrie.
But I do have one more, and it's sort of the exact same thing that Connor just went through. I've never been a proponent of bevel up planes. Like I have regular standard hand planes. To bevel up, it's like, oh, get a plane and get a bunch of blades and you can do all these things in one. It's like, no, just get a bunch of planes. And I didn't really like the bevel up because there's no frog there.
That's how you wind up with a plane habit.
It's like when I use a regular hand plane, my fingers sort of extended along the side of the plane next to the blade. That's just how I use it. And the bevel up plane, there's nothing there. So you're just like grabbing onto this tote. And I feel like I'm sort of lost in space. Anyway, the grip is really different. It's uncomfortable. And a long time ago, I used them. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really see the thing. I do have a bevel up plane that I use just for shooting end grain, which is really nice. It's a nice dedicated plane. But however, I did have a blade kicking around that had been sharpened to 45 degrees. And someone gave it to me, and it's like, well, okay, I'm going to use it one of these days. And I was doing some oak, and my planes weren't sharp, and the oak was a little bit nasty. I said, oh, I have that 45-degree blade for the bevel up smoother. Let me try it. Yeah, and it worked really well. It worked like really, really well. So, yes.
Was it like pushing against a Mack truck, though, or something?
No, because my 4.5 with the 55-degree frog, that bruises the pad of my hand because it pushes so hard. No, this is nice. Sip, no tear out. Really? So, yeah. Bevel up smoother, 45-degree blade. That's a nice thing.
It's almost a scraper at that point.
This would be 52 degrees. We're still taking shavings.
All right, fine.
But on mine, I have a 55-degree with a 10-degree back bevel, so it's like cutting at 65 degrees. That's rough. Anyway.
Gets it done.
Yeah.
All right. So since last week, or a couple weeks ago, whatever, we talked about not reading user comments or listener comments anymore. I pulled out a few, and let's see, from RM Dub. Please, sir, may I have another? Juvenile humor, arrogant host, the more the better. Haters gonna hate, am I right? Seriously, one of my favorite podcasts. Thanks for all the good pod, guys. And gal.
That's sort of presuming that we get a lot of negative comments.
I don't know why anyone would presume such a thing.
Yeah, arrogant hosts?
All right, and from Brees25, if you enjoy woodworking, grab a pen and paper and listen carefully. Great show. And to that, I say, I put most of the stuff on the website, so you don't have to take notes. Just go check out the show notes.
I know.
Actually, I'm not very good about that. I apologize. That's all I have.
Huh.
I had another one, but it was really long. So, all right. So, That's it for this episode of Shop Talk Live. Please spread the word about Shop Talk Live to your woodworking friends and neighbors. Shop Talk Live is dependent on your questions, so make sure you send them in to shoptalk@taunton.com. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, and while you're there, give us a 5-star rating. And don't forget to leave your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. Finally, you can keep up with Fine Woodworking on Instagram and on Facebook, and look for all of us, except Anissa, on Instagram as well.
No, she's on there.
One post.
She's kind of buried.
A turtle crossing the road. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Snapper. I won a free breakfast for that turtle.
What?
I have a bet with a friend. First person to save a turtle going across the road
Gets a breakfast.
gets a free breakfast. We did it last year, and neither one of us saved a turtle. So this has been going on for over a year.
So does it
Makes a
build up?
bet about first person to save a turtle. Wow.
So do you get 2 breakfasts? You should. It rolls over.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Good point.
I'd play
I'm
that card.
gonna broach that.
Did you reiterate this year?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there was.
We reactivated the bet again this year.
Okay. I feel like it starts from this year, but
That's what I was thinking, but I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
see how far you can push it. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, and have fun in the shop. Was it as awful as you thought?
No.
Okay, good.
Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Once, when I was in a school environment, I'm not going to mention where, I'm not going to mention any names here, but the thing with schools is there's sometimes you're allowed in the shop, sometimes you could do handwork, but you can't use any of the machines after hours. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. And at this particular school with a group of people, we were banned from using the machines at night after a certain time, and they would lock up the circuit breaker. So I had a good idea. It was a good idea. Somebody needed a bandsaw, and I said, I have you covered. And I opened up the wheel, and I started turning it by hand. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Really fast, and they were bandsawing. And then my hand got stuck in there. You can cut that piece. Hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Cheeky, saucy, sassy, hurry. Hurry, 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 hurry.